Hey, good evening, friends. Dennis LaRue here, your weekly wingman, your chief inspiration officer, bringing you the hashtag steeltoesrequired quote of the week. And this is episode 27. Hey, Mom, glad you're joining me. Amy, number 33, glad you're joining me as well. What an opportunity every week to be here. And for those of you that are joining in, jump in. Let me know that you're here. John, let me know you're here. If this is your first time, if you're a first timer, let me know you're a first timer. And for those of you that aren't first timers, just jump in, interact. If you've got questions, hey, throw some questions out. Love to interact in that way too. But this week's quote is a quote that I discovered in all places at a bookstore. But it wasn't in a book. I'd never read it. I'd never heard of it. Hey, Wendell. Hey, man, I'm glad you're here. First timer, right on. Hey, Sharich, glad you're here as well. This quote is one that I discovered in a bookstore, and I didn't discover it in a book. I'd never read it before, never heard of it, but I saw it on a pillow. That's right, it was a mini pillow, and I'm going to show it to you in just a second when I read the quote, because it's from a previous author who has been quoted before by me, that has changed my life, and I didn't know anything about this person at the time. It was just a great quote. So if you're involved in sports, if you've been involved in anything that involves the impossible, you may recognize this quote. Tina, glad you're joining me as well. Here's the quote. Here it comes. Are you ready? Ed Deal. Hey, man, glad you're here also. Here comes the quote. And I'm going to hold it up. You're going to see it. Because here's the pillow. Here it is right there. Act as if it were impossible to fail by Dorothea Brand. You see that pillow? I carry this pillow wherever I travel. It's important to me. Plus, it's off for these flights that we're on nowadays. You know what? It's a great little piece to sleep with as well when I need a nap on a plane. Okay? But I carry it with me. Hey, Michelle, glad you're here also. This little pillow has been an inspiration to me. Act as if it were impossible to fail by Dorothea Brand. I love this quote because it requires us to do something right off the bat. We got to act. Now, there's a difference between acting and fake it before you make it. That's a mindset difference. Because you're taking action towards the possible. Mom, I know exactly what you mean there, and I'm not going to talk about that. You got to take action. And it's action towards where you're going to go. And it seems impossible. Remember, we've talked about goals, and goals need to stretch you. They need to challenge you. And so when you set up a goal that is challenging and almost impossible, you need to act as if you will not fail. Why is the United States military, for all my vets that are out there, why are we the greatest military in the world? It's because of this quote. We act as if it's impossible to fail. Now, we don't take that lightly. We don't walk in to, let's say you're in sports. It's very hard to go undefeated in any sport. The ones that walk in prepared and ready to win and expect to win, they win. But the ones that are arrogant and expect everybody to respect their reputation and they don't do the work, those are the ones that are going to lose. So what I'm saying here is, first off, this challenges us to take action. We got to act as if it's impossible to fail. And I've seen this in my own life so many times. I've seen it training for a marathon. You've heard me talk about that. But what I want to talk about here is my very last promotion in my Air Force career. Now, I'm not going to go through the process and the system because it's way too long to get into here. But we'll just put it this way. There were a couple of times in my career, 2 to 3 times in my career, that if the Air Force had given out 5 more promotions, that's it, just 5 more promotions, I would have been promoted a whole lot earlier at different times in my career. Now it seems like, wow, we're talking really close. And at one point, I was number 2. If they had 2 more extra promotions 2 years in a row, I'd have been promoted. That's devastating. That's like going to the championship game all prepared and then losing, and then getting there again and losing again. If you're a football fan, think of the Buffalo Bills. They went to the Super Bowl 4 years in a row and came away losing each time. That's what it felt like for me when I didn't get promoted those 2 times, and I was coming up again for a promotion. So the challenge for me was, it seemed like getting promoted was impossible, but I took action. I had to take action. So I took, Amy, I do too. The Wingman Coke, it's one of my favorite things. I remember when they came out, I love that can. I look at it all the time. And also Wingman is my word for 2018. So I look at it all the time. Thanks for pointing that out, my friend. So when it comes to taking action and acting as if it's impossible to fail, if you failed and you do the exact same thing over again, you're going to fail again, right? You got to make tweaks to that action. So in my case, for my promotion, I realized that I wasn't studying as hard as I should or could to get that promotion. So I put a plan in place. That's right, Wendell, persistence. So I made a plan. I communicated that plan to my bosses. And I told them, I said, hey, look, I'm leaving the office at lunch. You can't find me. I am not going to have my phone on me. Leave me alone for that 1 hour. I'm going to go study because I want to get promoted. And they wanted me to get promoted. So that's what happened. And then in the evenings, I would go to Starbucks for 3 hours. My sweet wife, Jamie, at that time, she said, do what you need to do to get promoted. I communicated my plan to her. And for 3 hours every night, for 6 days a week, I went to Starbucks and I studied. I studied so hard at Starbucks, and they saw me so much. I got a lot of free coffee, and I knew every barista by name, and they knew me. I got a lot of free coffee. But moving forward to that test date, I had set a goal of what I wanted to do on that test, and you know what? The day came. And I believed in my actions. The closer I got, the more confident I got, because I was seeing the results. I was retaining the information at a level I'd never done before. And when test day came, I rocked it. When I walked into that test, I knew I was getting promoted. And when I walked out of that test after testing, I knew I was getting promoted. I knew that it was just a matter of now the wait time for all the scores and everything that goes along with that to the official announcement day. I knew it. And the big thing about this quote, again, act as if it were impossible to fail, requires belief that you won't fail. You see, actions follow your beliefs. What you believe is how you're going to act. And I acted as if I was going to get promoted. I knew it. And I studied like it. And I saw and I looked every single day at what I wanted to score to get promoted. I knew that if I scored these scores, that I was getting promoted. I knew it. So belief drives actions. And then Wendell's already brought it up. Persistence. That leads to, failure happens. I just described mine. All of us here have faced some type of failure. But the difference in failure is, do you stay down on the mat, let the count of 10 happen, and you're out? Or do you get up and go another round? One of the ways you know which is persistence. Wendell's pointed it out. Persistence. You have to persist. And you have to have the desire. I've been learning this in a study with one of my mentors, Paul Martinelli. Many of you here that watch this are part of the John Maxwell team, and we're going through Think and Grow Rich together with Paul Martinelli. If you're not, you need to. And he's been talking about desire, a definite desire. You see, again, belief, action. You got to have definite desire. What's your desire? And when you know what you desire, and in my case, it was getting promoted, that was it. It was right there. My desire was steadfast, rock solid. Then my belief came in and I took action as if I knew that I would not fail. Even though I had failed on 3 previous attempts to get this promotion. And I'd been so close many times. But I made changes and I persisted. And I walked and took action. And I knew that this time I was not going to fail. I knew that when the day came out and it was time for the announcements of who was getting promoted by name, my name was going to be on that list. And I knew when the general came to my office, my name was going to be called. I was already ready. I had already prepared for hearing my name called and how I was going to react. And I'll just tell you this, I lost all military bearing. I celebrated. I absolutely celebrated. That's right, Amy. Remind me to tell you about my first E6 exam and my PRT for my chief exam. Yes, I'm with you, Amy. Absolutely. That's exactly what it was like. When the general called out my name, I high-fived him, went over to the chief who hugged him. Man, I grabbed the chief and I hugged him and I jumped up and down like Rocky on the steps, shouting and woo-hooing in front of 200 people, all witnessing it. Yes, that was a great moment. That was an absolute great moment. But I saw that in my mind beforehand, and I desired that more than anything at that moment. And I took action, and I believed that I was going to achieve it. Very important. Now, we talked about desire and persistence. The other thing you have to have is positive attitude. You see, after I had been notified of my promotion Passover party, for those of you that are military, and particularly Air Force in this case, when promotions come out and you don't get promoted, we call it the Passover party. And what happens normally for me is I'm very competitive. I wanted to get promoted. And when I've been passed over, I will celebrate with the people that were selected. We rejoice with those who rejoice. And then after rejoicing with them, I would lace up my running shoes and go for a nice long run at a very high speed. And I would unleash all the anger, the frustration, the bitterness, whatever else was within me at that time, let it go. And then the next day, start over. So, but it required a positive attitude. When I was promoted, when the years that it came to where I was promoted, I had a positive attitude the whole time. The times that I did not get promoted, I didn't have a plan in place. I didn't study as hard as I should. I didn't follow a plan. And also, I didn't have the right attitude. No question about it. So, for you to accomplish the impossible, you have to believe the impossible. You have to persist in the impossible. And you also have to have a positive attitude that you will achieve the impossible. So there it all is. There it all is right there from our quote. Again, act as if it were impossible to fail. That is Dorothea Brand. That is my pillow. And I'll tell you what, if I'm traveling to an area, ask me if I have it. Because you know what? I'll have it with me. I always bring it with me. It's one of my favorite quotes. So, there it is. Was that a great quote or what? Did you enjoy that quote? I see some hearts popping up. So many of you joining in, and I appreciate you. Just a couple of things before we get into the blessing in the end is, if this is your first time watching this video, guess what? This is episode 27. And the other 26 I've got posted in 2 other areas. You can go to my Facebook business page, DennisLaRueJr.LLC. Or you can also go, all of you are not aware of this, I have a YouTube page, Dennis LaRue Jr. on YouTube. All of these are posted out there too. So I'd love for you to go out there, watch them, post comments, likes, all of those things. Be a great help to me. And again, one of my reasons for doing this is to add value to you and to reach 1 million people, to have their toes stepped on, to get them uncomfortable, but then also propel them to start living the life that they were called to live, at reaching their full potential. That's why I do this. So again, I want to thank you all for joining me tonight. So as we wrap it up and come in, I got time for a couple of questions. Who's got a question based off of tonight? Just type it in right now in the comments and I'll answer it before we give the blessing. I feel like Alex Trebek. The music's in the background. Do you hear it? Jeopardy? Okay, I'm not seeing any questions come up. Here we go. We're going to wrap it up in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, we'll wrap it up right here. Here is the blessing. I pray the blessing of bread that you know no hunger. I pray the blessing of salt that your life would have flavor and you would be flavorful in other people's lives. I pray the blessing of wine, that joy and prosperity would be yours, and that the love of God would be your portion today, this moment, and forevermore. Thank you so much for joining me, all of you. If you just take a moment, if this added value to you, I would love it if you would just share this with your group, with your friends, or tag somebody you know that this would add value to you. So again, thank you so much again for joining me. We'll see you next week on hashtag steeltoesrequired, quote of the week. This is Dennis LaRue, your weekly wingman, and I am out. Have a great week, everyone. Bye.